welcome everybody from Alchemist Copper crew who are over here to join us, and welcome everybody from BanklessDAO, and welcome to people who are maybe external who heard about this through the socials. Today with our AMA, we have the team from Copper Launch. Product owner Ree is here with us, and he's going to go through and explain what Copper Launch is, what they're offering in terms of token launches for projects, how it works, a little bit of ins and outs of Copper Launch itself. And then Pizza King is also with the team there. We also had Sausage Crypto. Is he going to make it today, guys?
I think it's the middle of the night his time, so he's not.
Yeah.
Okay. So he was also in discussions with us leading up to this, but he's not going to make it today. But yeah, with that, I'm going to hand it straight over to you, Ree. Welcome, and go ahead and kick it off.
For sure. Thanks for the intro, NFT Thinker. First of all, I also want to thank everybody for joining. I've personally been a huge fan of Bankless and got a lot of my crypto education from Bankless HQ, and now joining BanklessDAO is a great honor, and it's really amazing what you guys have built here and how far you've taken it. So yeah, it's an honor to be here, and thank you for having us. That being said, so a little bit about myself. I'm an Alchemist community member, product owner for Copper. It's a project that was incubated within the Alchemist community. So I'm an anon, and I joined the Alchemist community when it was still quite small. And then there was an opportunity for us to start building things within it. So I put my hand up along with many other community members. And over the last half year or so, as a community, we've built 3 pretty successful products. The Crucible, which is a smart contract wallet that supports the ability to self-custody LP while subscribing it to multiple rewards programs. It also has a pretty incredible NFT art representing the contents of that wallet dynamically, which was very recently released, so you should check it out. We also have Mystex, which is a decentralized exchange that protects users from being front-run. And Copper, which is a platform for permissionless token launches. So that's what I've been working on with my team over the last 6-7 months together. And Copper is basically a platform where founders and projects can go to and launch a token representing some form of ownership in the idea they're building. And through the token launch auction itself, gain an invested community with skin in the game that's hopefully going to contribute to that idea and help it grow along the founder's side. So we have a unique price discovery mechanism that is built on top of Balancer's liquidity bootstrapping pools. When a new token is launched by a team, you usually don't really have like a good understanding of what its value really is. So for any new asset, the most important thing is understanding what its true value, while also distributing it widely within an invested community that cares about that idea and wants to see it succeed. So the price discovery mechanism we have for token launches starts off the launch at a high price point for a token, and then that price starts dropping. So community members or auction participants, as they're seeing this price drop and they're seeing levels for the price that they're comfortable with or or they think that that represents the actual value of the token, they can start buying into it. And then if enough people start buying into this token as the price is dropping, as a collective, they have the power to overwrite the price drop. And in fact, the price might start rising. So if collective buying demand is high enough, a token can actually start increasing in price rather than falling. So that means that the community has collectively decided that now's the right price for it. And yeah, that's kind of roughly what the mechanism is like. And the other thing is nobody is locked into it. So once you buy into the token, you also have the freedom to sell it back into the launch if you get to a price that you're no longer kind of comfortable with or think that it's potentially overvalued. So it really results in true price discovery for new tokens and assets, and it also puts all the power into a community's hands. So it's it's permissionless, so anyone can join, anyone can buy in. You can buy in as many tokens as you want. There's no caps that are typically associated with launchpads. There's no token staking that you have to do in order to participate. You just bring your stable coins or ETH, and you can go ahead and become an owner in a new community that was formed. So we think that this model is really powerful because it's permissionless in nature, so anyone can launch a new token, anyone can participate in a token auction, and it also gives the opportunity to completely new kind of community members to earn and grow a stake in an idea. So if somebody buys into an idea early enough and has skin in the game, they automatically start seeing themselves as almost co-owners of that idea. And if the team or project that's launching creates the right conditions, those community members can become active, passionate community members. So that is a model that we want to promote and grow. And since our launch for version 2 of the platform in September, I think we've had something like over 450 million funds raised. We've had small teams raise. We've had massive raises. We had Merit Circle recently raise 100 million, and then GuildFi, I think it was 135. Then we've also had kind of smaller communities raise that ended up growing into big successes after the raise. So we had Klima launch through Copper as the first V2 launch, and then we've had also other much smaller communities and even NFT projects launch through the platform. So it's I think it's very kind of community and DAO friendly, and happy to answer any questions or maybe talk about any other aspects. But first, maybe Pizza, do you have anything to add on top of this?
I think you covered the big points there, Ree. I'd just say in my role in business development, I love talking to the breadth of teams. I know I see some of y'all in the audience right now, but talking to large teams, small teams, and helping those communities grow has kind of been a really fun aspect of watching what Copper can do. And then also watching the continued journey. So Tempest is a recent launch, and then they moved over to Crucible, one of our sister products, for their own staking program. So we love seeing that journey and kind of helping those teams along the way, not just being like a point in time of their growth.
Yeah, I think one other thing I forgot to cover is
think we got some audio chopping up.
There's some audio problems.
Yeah, you were chopping up there for just a sec, but you're back now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was saying that we're moving into the L2 direction because we found that mainnet fees can be a burden for many. So we want to democratize access to these early investment opportunities and being part of early communities for as many people as we can. So now we're also starting to support L2s. We started off with Polygon, and we'll soon support Arbitrum. We've actually had 2 teams now that both launched an auction simultaneously in mainnet as well as Polygon, and it's been incredible to see the increase in participation of both smaller buyers in Polygon, but also kind of there was an increase in both transactions and token holders on the Polygon network for those projects. So the 2 projects were Popcorn and Human DAO, and both had pretty solid raises. And just seeing somebody buy in $5 worth of Popcorn or Human DAO or whatever has been incredible, because in mainnet, just the fee can sometimes be like $100 to buy into something. So it really opens things up to a lot more people, and that's one aspect that we're also really excited about.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I'm most excited about as well, is the not necessarily the dual chain launch, but launching on L2s and being able to just offer your product to more people around the world, people who can't necessarily afford gas prices. If somebody has $50 that they want to invest, they're certainly not going to be able to do it on mainnet. So having this opportunity is really, something unique, I believe. So yeah, you've said quite a bit there. Have a few things to unpack. I did want to open up to the crowd and say that I'm monitoring the CC chatter. So if anybody has any questions specifically for Ree or Pizza King, just post them in the chatter there, and I'll try my best to get that in there. So yeah, as I said, a few things to unpack here. Now, you mentioned Alchemist at the beginning. So is Alchemist a DAO, or is Alchemist, does that operate sort of in a different way to a DAO? How does Alchemist work?
So right now, Alchemist is a community. It started off with 0 structure. The founder is Stefan, also known as the Ghost Step on Twitter. He's also a co-founder of Flashbots, and he launched a token last February. And there was, when the launch was happening, he launched it through an LBP, which is also kind of pretty interesting, because that's how we gained a lot of the insights we have for Copper. But he launched it, and there was no plan. It was just essentially a token that had an alembic emoji as the token symbol, and he literally said there is no plan for this token. And once the token was launched, this kind of aesthetic and direction invited a lot of creative, adventurous people into the community, and kind of very organically we started coalescing around ideas and developing them. So it became almost like a builders community. And now with time, as we've iterated over ideas, people have coordinated, we are, I guess, on the path to becoming a DAO, and structures have been kind of formed out of nothing, and just community members coordinating with one another. So we are a community on the path to becoming a DAO.
Okay, yeah, that's good to know. And so anybody from here in Bankless who's interested over there, we will post a link to the Alchemist Discord, so you guys can join that. I'll do that in a few minutes here when I got just a minute. And yeah, hopefully more people from here can go over there and get involved with you. We have a lot of builders here as well, so as a builder community, it bodes quite well for all of us.
Yeah, that I will quickly add that, yeah, we're actually in fact looking to kind of like continue incubating projects. So so that means we provide teams with both resources and support and mentorship when it comes to building products within the community. So yeah, if anyone has any kind of like ideas, big or small, we welcome you guys, and we're also happy to kind of collaborate with BanklessDAO whenever the opportunity arises, and we can build some cool things together.
Definitely. We love a good collaboration. So we've got some questions starting to pop into the CC chatter here. From Jordaniza, we have what factors contribute to a successful launch on the platform? So yeah, what are your success metrics?
So I think the biggest, it obviously varies team to team depending on what their kind of goals for the raise are. Maybe they're not necessarily looking to raise a lot of money, but they're looking to distribute their token as widely as possible, or maybe they are looking to kind of raise a smaller amount of money but try to protect the downside of the token price for whatever reason. So it depends on team to team, but really the single most important factor that determines the success of a launch is how strong is the community around that project or team that is launching. If the team has managed to create a Discord, talk about their idea, map it out, involve community members already, get people to start contributing, whether on the building front or on the marketing or on the just education side of things. As the more active a community, the more likely these launches are going to be successful, because it means that those community members themselves are also more likely to buy into that token when it launches. It's basically gaining an ownership in what you're building.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So the more engagement you have, the more of a community you have, the more value it has. Yeah, thanks for that question, Jordaniza. Next we have Blackfire. And he wants to hear about the ratio of pool creation in terms of collateral versus the amount of token, starting point and end point.
Yeah, so the liquidity bootstrapping pool mechanism that the token launches are built on top. So this answer is going to be a little bit technical, but the question is also technical. So
fine, yeah, technical is fine here.
the LVPs, they are at their core an automated market maker. So you have when a team is creating the token launch, they have to deposit liquidity into this token launch. And it's different from most AMMs because the ratios are not at 50-50. If you think of like a Uniswap or Sushi Swap, when you are creating a liquidity pool there, you deposit equally proportioned amounts of a token and some base currency. So if you're depositing 100 units of a token and 100 units and 100 DAI, that single token is going to be worth 1 DAI. For an LBP, in order to create this price decay feature, there's some customization there where you can start off the pool and you can weigh heavily in the favor of the like the base currency that you've deposited. So you can deposit $100 worth of DAI, but tweak those weights where they're not proportioned within the liquidity pool, and the launch token, its price gets magnified. So you're essentially kind of I guess there's a multiplier on the base currency or the collateral currency. So that 100 DAI becomes worth, it becomes the equivalent of 10,000 DAI. And so those 100 tokens that you've deposited are at the beginning not worth 100 DAI, but worth 10,000 DAI because you've magnified the collateral's value. And then you started off at that weight, like 99 to 1 could be one starting point, and then you decrease the weights over time to an end weight. So you could either maybe end the price discovery at 50-50, so the same kind of proportion that you would have on Uniswap or SushiSwap, or go all the way into the other direction where it's 1 to 99. So where those 100 tokens that you've deposited are actually worth, like $1. So you can get like a full price discovery range around the token's price. And the collateral that you put in, so the DAI or USDC or WETH, that determines the starting price and the ending price in conjunction with those weights. So we've seen teams launch with collateral sizes really across the board. It's pretty capital efficient, so you can, you do even a launch with $50,000, for example. Like we had a team that had an auction that just recently ended, do a price discovery that went from 99 to 1 ratio to 1 to 99 with only $50,000 worth of collateral. And that's collateral that at the end of the auction you get back. So, depending on your goals, you might want to start off the auction with like $1 million worth of collateral. But if you're a small project or team, you can start it off with significantly smaller number and still get the ability to kind of raise and get a pretty high valuation for your token, and go all the way down and still get the opportunity to kind of open it up to others to join your community. I just kind of explained the relationship between these factors, but again, it really depends on like a team's goals, and there's a lot of other nuance I'm not covering here, but it gets into very specific things.
Yeah, I can imagine. And so it really depends on maybe the team's goal and the team's abilities to fund that pool. And all these factors are gonna play into how they set their own options. So when it comes to setting options, is that something you guys offer guidance on for a project, or would it be strictly determined by what their initial investment, their initial pool is capable of doing?
Yeah, so actually I'll let Pizza take this question because he's been the one that's been handling or talking to teams the most, so he'll probably have the most kind of to say on this front.
Yeah, thanks, Rui. So in general, regardless of the size of the team, what a team is trying to raise, if they want to talk to Copper, again, I like to remind them we're permissionless, so they never have to hear my voice if they don't want to. But I love to engage with them and walk through the auctions we have seen. and kind of share some best practices at times in terms of communication, material, why teams might have been doing what they did for their auction creation, and just kind of share what's been going on. So I don't advise on you should take X path for a successful launch, but just kind of talk through what we've seen. So even with our price mechanism moving from high to low, demand is a huge part of this. So if you go through a number of Copper's auctions, they don't all look the same when you look at their price chart. So it's more of an art than a science, and it's really kind of interesting to look through it. But I just kind of have the open conversation with teams and stay in contact with them throughout their auction creation. And we have some tools for teams to test with to kind of build out what their auction might look like. But it's really varied from launch to launch, which has been pretty exciting.
Amazing. And this is what makes it decentralized, and this is what makes it permissionless, is people able to set their own options. And yeah, awesome. So we have a couple more questions in here. This one is from, I've got one from Adam Fortuna. I'm going to swing back to you in just a minute. I've got one from Jairus James. He says, why should the starting price of your TLA be higher than what you believe is the fair price?
Well, I think the answer there is because maybe you're wrong on what you believe the fair price is. Maybe, your community and the market as a whole actually values what you're building a lot more. So if you can, get additional resources, why not? Like, why not give the market an opportunity to decide? I think a lot of the existing launch pads, they usually, fix a price for something. And that is pretty inefficient because it could both price, community members and potential, new stakeholders out, and not kind of like sell out or kind of not engage the full range of the market there. So I think that's really kind of why it's attractive.
I would add on there, Reed, also starting at the higher price point discourages early whales from trying to jump in early and to dominate an auction. I know we've all seen the auctions that end in a few minutes or a few seconds and only a few wallets participate. So by having this price decay function and that initial high price, if you look at wallet distribution across some of our big auctions, you see very, very broad participation across small wallets, mid wallets, and then large wallet holders. So I think that's just a great value to the community when you can showcase who's actually able to be involved. And this is just, it's not a perfect system, but it's a way to try and support that involvement from a broader community.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Pizza. I completely slipped my mind, but that is one of the nice advantages of this price decay functionality. And on that front, you'll still sometimes see bots buy in early, like into an auction. But if the community is educated for that particular project, they won't follow them, and you'll sometimes see those same kind of bots that buy as soon as the price or as soon as the auction goes live also get wrecked when the price starts dropping because nobody is following suit at that level. So that is definitely, like, preventing front running is definitely a big part of this.
Yeah, and that leads me to one of the questions I had. So what prevents the price from bottoming out at a level where it becomes, is there a failure point? At what point does it go too low, or can that happen?
Can you elaborate a little bit on what do you mean by failure or too low?
So obviously, the token gets cheap enough, and people are gonna want to buy in at that lower price point. But is there a point where is there a failure point in this where it doesn't come back up? It loses its upward
Yeah.
momentum, or price discovery goes maybe too low, and the project starts to lose. I guess that would be where would that be covered? Did they start
Yeah.
to lose from their liquidity pool, or where
Mhm.
how would that happen?
Yeah. So yeah, I think you're basically asking, is there a price point if the token kind of like falls to it, then it's already like not in the team's best interest to kind
Mm-hmm.
of sell the token at that price. And
Correct.
that is really kind of up to the teams to decide. There's if your goal is not necessarily to the distribute the token as widely as possible while also giving this opportunity for full price discovery, maybe you want to protect against that price too low aspect. So you can do that by both tweaking the collateral levers, either increasing the collateral size or by having the collateral constant and tweaking the end weights at which the auction ends. So you can configure the end weights in such a way where it limits that full price discovery. So you'll see for this reason, for teams that are looking for a balance between distribution and protecting against that like low price or low market cap, or like a market cap they're not comfortable with, they'll actually end their auction at 50-50 weights rather than allowing for price discovery below that, so that protects their token's value if that's something they're concerned with.
So in essence, they can pull the plug on the launch at any time.
Yeah, they can also pull the plug on the launch, but that's kind of like not advised by us. It's more like
Okay.
yeah, like you teams have the ability to withdraw and end the launch prematurely, but really they can just protect against a particular downside by the end weight. So then when and then the way the auction is configured is that downside will be reached precisely at the end of the auction if nobody buys into the token.
Okay. All right. So there's some cool protection mechanisms in there, and this goes back to the beginning of setting your options and trying to figure out what that might be before you get going. All right. Yeah. The question from Adam Fortuna is, what are the 3 things that you believe contributed to your community's success the most? So in terms of community building, overall success, what if you could name 3 things that you think helped build not just Alchemist, but also your particular product, Copper Launch?
Yeah. So I think probably the most important thing is the ability to easily start contributing towards something that is being developed in the community. So having kind of a lot of transparency and visibility into what's going on so that community members can jump in and start being active. And then also earning ownership in what you're building. So a lot of the stipend payouts that happen within Alchemist, they happen within NIST token. So as you're building, as you're growing, you have this opportunity to kind of hold on to that token and earn a stake in the community. And if the fruits of your labor are successful, you also end up benefiting. Let's see, for a third is probably enabling collaboration between community members with the least amount of friction possible. So up, facilitating or like having calls to which others can join and hear about like what's happening and potentially join new things. Yeah, that kind of thing. I will say though that we've also noticed an interesting tendency where, as an idea kind of like first starts, it's super open and easily accessible, but then there's a tendency for knowledge and information to centralize kind of around the main stakeholders of that idea, which is kind of a natural organic thing, but it does tend to kind of like block others from easily joining. So that's kind of a force that we are working to kind of reduce its impact within Alchemist as a whole, and also just within individual teams that have now formed. So not only thinking about it within the whole community, but at the team level, like how does somebody that know a lot about part of the product distribute that information widely to others and make sure that the product and the community is resilient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, resilience is definitely key. And I like what you say about how knowledge can centralize around the main stakeholders of that idea. That does tend to happen in these situations, and so having those open meetings where ideas can be shared is super important for a community to build and grow, and for those ideas to sort of disseminate amongst the crowd. Speaking of enabling collaboration, do you mostly focus on Discord and use Discord for that, or do you have other tools that you guys use which you would either recommend, or things which you find just absolutely standout tools for collaborating?
We found Discord to be really effective. We briefly tried Basecamp early in Alchemist community days, and it was just too like loose, and like there were like not enough structures, and then we had communications in Discord, but then some in there, and so we just moved it all to Discord. I think like the way you can have roles, the way you can have some roles that are affected by your like the contents of your wallet or things that you have done, makes it an ideal kind of tool for communities. Yeah, I think that kind of like the only problem there is as communities scale, always need to stay on top of how can you rework the Discord and the channels in such a way that somebody that's new can easily process, because it has a tendency to really grow out of hand. Like you get more and more channels, more and more roles. So just thinking consciously about that. So now we have a member of the coordination team, Sal, within Alchemist, actually actively thinking about how to rework our Discord so it still facilitates collaboration and easy coordination without being overwhelming.
Yeah, this is something we've experienced here in BanklessDAO as well. With, I mean, we hit our limit of 500 channels. We've now moved to using threads. We're cracking down on who can create new channels and for what purpose those are for. So yeah, these coordination efforts are ongoing. So if you guys come up with any amazing ideas, we would love to hear them as well over here. As I said, it's just something we're constantly working on. So yeah, we love Discord when it works. Every once in a while during the community call, somebody like Frog Monkey will get kicked or something like that, and he'll have to rejoin. But yeah, coordination efforts. That's why we're here to play Moloch, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's always going to be the force we're fighting, more like how, really fighting against ourselves rather than the external. Like, can we figure out coordination? Can we make it work at scale? Like, what is there a limit to where it starts breaking down? Like, how do we overcome it, and so on?
Exactly. That's so much to consider. Okay, we won't spend too much more time on that because there's a ton of other stuff to talk about. Now, one of the things that you mentioned are other projects within Alchemist, and you're constantly building. Do you guys have any projects currently on the go? Anything about ready um, to formalize or finalize? Do you have anything really super exciting that you'd like people here to know about?
So we definitely have a lot of big new features coming up for all of our projects. I know we have one other internal project that is being built, but I'm actually not sure how much I can release about it. But it is a tool for facilitating collaboration when building new products. So again, kind of driven by lessons learned that we've experienced over the last 6-7 months. Yeah, somebody's been heading that effort as part of an initiative we call Chaos Lab. So giving order to chaos. And yeah, I don't know how close they are, but I think they're getting really close to releasing something there. So hopefully we can share something new with the world soon on that front.
Amazing. Yeah, there's building new products is so many challenges. We've got loads of new products spinning up out of BanklessDAO. So I would suggest anybody here listening who is working on a product or interested in building products to pop over to Alchemist and see how maybe we can cross-pollinate some of those ideas. Definitely a good option there. So now touching back onto these token launches, the thing that most got me about Copper and got me excited about it is the fact that it's a fair token launch. We discussed launching them on Polygon and how people who don't necessarily have the collateral to spend on gas can get involved and they can invest. Other aspects of fair would be, I mean, how do people know that a project is legit? What sort of processes do you have as a team? You've mentioned permissionless. They must have to meet some sort of standard before a token launch can take place. So what are your either due diligence processes internally, if you have any, or what are your metrics for getting a project launched?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and it's a tough question to kind of work through as we've been building. So one thing is again, like, what is the definition of fair? I think kind of it's is it about that the process is fair? Is it that the token hasn't been distributed already to some existing maybe venture capitalists, or maybe there haven't been sales on other networks? So there's a lot of nuance around that for sure. We definitely think that the mechanism itself is fair, but it's a combination, like this definition of fair is I guess up to participants to evaluate and decide for themselves. Maybe what they value is that this is, like a DAO community, and this is the first time their token is getting distributed, and they can buy in at the very start of this community and so on. Or maybe it's that there's this team, and they've already built a successful MVP. They have some venture funding, but they now want to distribute the token to the community, and now you get an entry point in a fair way at that level. That being said, regardless of what that definition is of fair, we do want users against projects that might take advantage of this permissionless nature of the platform. So we started that by building MVP for curated lists, where a third party, whether it's a person or organization, can build out a list of curated auctions on Copper based on some internal criteria that they've set out for that list, and that opens up the space to kind of the interpretation and discretion of others as to what is fair. And they can have some public criteria they list out, or maybe they're a trusted entity within the community, and others are more likely to engage with the projects that they've curated. And then we also have an unvetted list that is basically the wild west of the platform, where maybe it's projects that haven't been vetted by that curator or haven't passed their criteria, and then kind of users of Copper can just make up their mind and do their own due diligence there. And with time, we have right now an initial auction curator, Balancer Intern. He's a member of the Balancer community, and he's been really active on the LBPs. He actually started building out his own LBP watch list site while we were developing this curated list feature on Copper. So then when we saw that as a great opportunity to just involve this curator that naturally emerged, and both help users on our platform and also help somebody that's passionate about looking out for these LBPs and researching them to kind of build out their own following and their own brand. So this is just the start. Next, we're going to work on making it so anybody can curate auctions on Copper, and then users of the platform will be able to follow lists that they trust, and it will operate in a similar fashion to maybe what token lists operate like on Uniswap, for example, where you can trust a token list from CoinGecko, or trust a token list from, I don't know, some other third party that you think is
BanklessDAO, perhaps.
Do you guys also have a list on token on Uniswap?
I couldn't answer to that, but I could certainly see that that spinning up if it doesn't exist already. We have a lot of people here in research, analytics, tokenomics, and I think that could be something that would be popular around here.
Oh man, I mean, we'd love it.
Blackfire says we can start one.
Yeah, we'd totally love it if you guys had, you have a lot of great projects come through Bankless and engage with the community, so you get a firsthand opportunity to assess their nature and what their ideals are and their ability to execute. So if you guys would be interested in curating a list on Copper, we would be both honored and would really welcome that. That would be great.
Yeah, I think that is something that would definitely be both of interest and super useful to our community as a whole, because we do have a lot of people here who are looking for good investments. And if we could trust our own name to it, then it would be more worthwhile for people to get involved. I believe it would be easier for people to get involved. So yeah, and also talking of new projects, I mean, there's also the possibility of projects which are spun up here within BanklessDAO to potentially form their own token launches using Copper Launch. What does the process look like for a project to get going with you guys? Go to the website, fill out a form.
Yeah, so I'll let Pizza take this one. He's the master of this domain.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, you never have to talk to any of us if you don't want to. But you can go straight to Copper and create your auction within our UI. So I know Ree mentioned you can kind of adjust your weights and toggle and change your collateral. In Copper's UI, you can see the implied market cap and your token price, set your auction duration, and once you're on chain, you're ready to go. So that side is pretty straightforward and simple. But like we also alluded to earlier, is that the educational component and the marketing to inform the community, kind of expand that strength and growth prior to launch is key to being successful on Copper. So that's pretty much the biggest time component, whether you're doing that for a few weeks or a month, 2 months, really depends on the team. So I would say that's your limiting factor. And then otherwise, I'm happy to talk to teams whenever they want. So I know we're talking about best practices of where people are working, whether it's Discord, etc. I'll meet you wherever you want. Carrier pigeon, Telegram, I'm everywhere. And I'm happy to be extremely involved. I'm answering questions all day with projects. But again, I am only if you need me. Otherwise, you could get spun up in a few hours.
Yeah, this is amazing. It's just, just the idea that somebody can do that so quickly is really incredible.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did have some other thing. I got a bunch of stuff written down here. Let me just weed through. One of the other things I wanted to touch on was your dual chain operation. Before we go here, this is something that we talked about in our pre-AMA when we spoke. Your dual chain operation now, currently you can release on Ethereum network and Polygon the same way Popcorn DAO did and the same way that Human DAO did. Now, what are some of the advantages to having it on both chains? What are some of the disadvantages? And there was also some mention of the potential of launching on other chains such as BSC if somebody really wanted to go over to a centralized platform. So could you just touch on some of those things for us?
Yeah, sure. So kind of the advantages of launching on multiple chains are that so if you're launching especially on an L2 in addition to mainnet, you give the opportunity to participants that can't afford mainnet transaction prices the ability to participate, and you're just involving a whole different market segment, and also it's not proof of work, so there's also less of an impact on the environment when you're doing that. So that's kind of like another thing to consider. The disadvantages would be that you're splitting your liquidity, like the total liquidity for your token, across L2s or multiple chains potentially in the future, which does kind of make that weaker as a disadvantage, to where really kind of like I guess there's like higher price impact and weaker liquidity, which results generally in challenges as as a new project expands and grows, because in order to really scale and give the opportunity to new investors to jump in, you want to have really strong liquidity and enable anyone to easily jump in and buy in. If you have weak liquidity and somebody tries to buy in for $10,000 and it results in 30% price impact, they might think about it twice before doing that.
Yeah, definitely. The splitting of the liquidity is potentially a big factor there, especially with smaller launches. We're coming up to the hour here, so I do want to be conscious of everyone's time. I have a couple of questions. I have one from the crowd, from Ernest of Gaia. Can Coinvise tokens on Polygon launch on Copper to raise funds?
I'm actually not familiar with Coinvise, but any token can launch on Copper to raise funds if it's on Polygon. So they just need some amount of collateral, and as long as that token is not already distributed out in the wild and people can't really just sell it back into the auction, they can definitely launch. And even for tokens that are already out in the wild, but maybe an additional distribution is necessary, there's still strategies to make it happen.
A short answer, definitely yes, Ernest. Ernest was mentioning book club in his question as well. He says there may be a bookworm token for DAO book clubs across the ecosystem. So I guess he's searching for ways to find funds for those. And he has posted a link of Coinvise into the CC chatter, so you guys can click on that and see exactly what that is.
Thank you, Ernest.
Yeah. Ernest is probably one of the most active people around here. So thanks for popping in, Ernest. Now let's see. I think we've pretty much gone through the majority of things. There were a few other things that we didn't touch on, but I do want to be conscious of people's time. And one of the other things was with the dual chains for launching, there is some price difference I've noticed between, say, for example, with Popcorn, the Pop token, it's slightly more expensive on Polygon than it is on Ethereum. So could you explain to people why that is, and if that's a problem, if it is a problem, what sort of stuff is being done to solve those problems?
Yeah, so it's an interesting kind of phenomena that it just shows that the markets between kind of Polygon and mainnet are not totally efficient in terms of there being still some arbitrage opportunities. Maybe they can be explained by the fact that transferring back funds from the Polygon network onto Ethereum mainnet is not an instant thing. It takes a few hours, and I think depending on how you do it, it can be either a few hours or a couple of days. So there's some processes that will arise because of that. Yes, there's a thing that could explain it is maybe there were, or not maybe, but there are definitely more buyers on Polygon. I think it was either 2 or 3 times more token holders. So potentially demand is higher on Polygon because it opens it up to these smaller buyers, which collectively have the ability to impact that price. And then those smaller buyers, they won't be the ones that are moving their token back to mainnet if they bought into for $20 to then sell it for a few cents higher or whatever, because the transaction cost of doing all that would be too costly. So I think those are some potential variables contributing to it. But Pizza King, can you think of maybe anything else there?
I think those are kind of the big components to think through. And I mean, we haven't had as many launches on Polygon and then mainnet at the same time to kind of maybe look through trends of what we're seeing here. The volume we're seeing is obviously much higher on mainnet. And so that could just be highlighting into like preferences of the current users we have of Copper, but not to say that couldn't change over time as more launches come to Polygon.
More to explore. I'm sure the teams like Popcorn DAO are looking back at it and trying to consider whether or not it was a good idea to even launch on mainnet. Do you think that's a question they're asking themselves? Do you think this will keep people from going for a mainnet launch, or will the advantages outweigh those disadvantages?
So Pizza, what do you think on this front?
Sure. So again, I think it really depends on the community base. Some teams, I think like Popcorn, for example, they took a vote to their community to see where would they want to launch. And I think mainnet was the last choice. Most votes actually went to Arbitrum, but they didn't end up launching with Arbitrum. So I think it's going to be very team dependent. And in my conversations with teams, the predominant conversation is, I think we're going to launch on mainnet. And I think a lot of that is just looking historically at successful launches on Copper. They tend to be, many of them, on mainnet. And again, so I don't know that means that success cannot be found on Polygon. I think it's just that we're early to Polygon. So the demand to be launching on Polygon is not as high. That being said, we do have projects coming through the pipeline that are looking to launch only on Polygon. So I think the holidays, we're having a little bit of a lull. But should be looking forward to a very exciting January 2022.
Yeah, especially with Arbitrum coming around the corner. One more question from Blackfire here. Are there any plans to add ZK Sync on Copper when L2 comes out in the market?
Yeah, so we're kind of actively looking at all L2 solutions and where we can meet our auction participants and projects looking to launch. So we'll go where we can meet them. And so yeah, we're definitely evaluating all the options as they become available. And it's oftentimes a matter of resources and how do we make the best use of them within the team and what to prioritize first and so on. Yeah, always on the lookout.
Just to add on the back of that, we do have teams that we're in contact with who are looking to still launch via Copper, but they're native on other chains and looking for creative ways to either bridge tokens or airdrop the corresponding native token, simply because they want to use Copper's launching mechanism. So we try to be flexible and work with teams to support a variety of needs. I'd like to think we're hyper responsive and want to be that level of support for communities trying to raise funds, even if it's not directly on Polygon or mainnet.
For sure. And to also quickly add to that, our first launch on Copper V2 was Klima, and they're now native on Polygon, but they launched the token on mainnet, and then they after they launched, they needed another month to get everything working on Polygon. So they created a rewards program with the Alchemist Crucible where people stake the token after they bought it. And in the meantime, the Klima team built out the Polygon bridge, built out all the infrastructure on Polygon. And then when they were ready, they opened up the bridge. And then all the tokens were transferred from mainnet to Polygon and kind of redeemed for like Polygon equivalent of Klima. And that was the strategy they used because at the time we didn't support Polygon yet. And they still managed to benefit from raising the necessary funds to push the project forward at the time.
You guys are facilitating quite a bit here, and you guys helped with the. Did you help with that bridging, or was that done within their own community in Klima DAO?
That was within the Klima community, but we did help on coming up with the Crucible solution as a way to so one of Klima's goals was to keep all of liquidity on Polygon. So they wanted to disincentivize users on mainnet from creating a liquidity pool, or at least having a big liquidity pool on mainnet after the token launched. So this rewards program on the Crucible was created, and our community kind of helped with that, and or like at least kind of advised on designing it. And then afterwards, the rewards program ended right in time for the mainnet launch, and then everybody withdrew from the rewards program and bridged their tokens over to Polygon.
Okay, so I think we have gone through the majority of these questions. There were a couple of things which we covered in the pre-AMA, which we may not have touched on, but I feel like we've covered quite a bit here. We can leave it open for just another minute for any other questions. There's someone typing currently. Maybe that will turn into a question. Did you guys have anything else that you would like to mention to our community before we sign off here, or any calls to action?
Yeah, so I know that the Bankless community, or one of its principles is, get involved in a DAO, jump into Web3, make that transition happen. And that was, I listened to this. There's this episode that Bankless had. I think it was the Renaissance, or something like the Web3 Renaissance, and that was one of the big calls to action. So whenever I have an opportunity, I just tell everybody, hey, jump into the Alchemist community. You'll see it's pretty easy to contribute. If you want to get involved with Web3, you don't have to commit to making the time. You can start small, build out expertise, see a good fit for you, and make that happen. And I think that's what facilitated the transition for a lot of people in our community from being part-time, either kind of like hobbyists when it comes to the tech, to being full-time contributors. This ease of contribution, and also like transitioning from being like investors to being builders. So definitely encourage everybody to jump in and see what we're about. And also the other awesome thing with Copper is you get the same opportunity with other communities. If you find an early project that matches your ideals and speaks to you, getting in this stake within that community early on could also, potentially facilitate you becoming an active contributor towards something that you're passionate about, and seeing the fruits of your labor kind of work for your own benefit with being also a token holder. So yeah, I think those things, and also we'd love to continue building this relationship with Bankless through Copper. We're seeing a lot of users that are new to crypto sip in through the platform, and they oftentimes need education and help with that. And we're trying our best with an Alchemist, but given that you guys are all about kind of education and this transition, I think there's a lot that we can collaborate on.
Certainly room for lots of collaboration here. Yeah, there was a question from Ernest about whether or not Copper has its own token, and that was something that came up in our pre-AMA. And as you explained, Alchemist not to be confused with Alchemix, correct, Ernest?
Yeah.
Alchemist has their own token, which is called MIST, MIST, and Copper uses that within your project for remuneration, etc. Any other uses for MIST that you guys have? How do you use that to your advantage within your project?
Yeah, so the Alchemist project, although it started off as having no plan, over time has evolved to becoming and acquiring the vision of becoming an kind of like an incubator for new products, for new startups. And so the way the utility, or like the value of the token, comes from the fact that Alchemist, or so MIST, with liquidity providers that stake their liquidity pool tokens in the Crucible, in a rewards program called the Aludel that is specific to the Alchemist community. They get a share of all revenues generated by products incubated within the Alchemist community. And then those products are also funded by the MIST token early on. So there is this reflexive relationship between what the community produces and kind of like the rewards. And there's also, right now there's an inflation mechanism where every 2 weeks, MIST goes through inflation, a 1% inflation, so an increase in supply, and that supply is used to fund these projects. So the idea is that if the projects manage to generate enough value for the community, they can offset this inflation cost and also counteract it by potentially driving enough value back to the community.
Okay, so MIST, yes, MIST, guys. Anyone interested out there, go check out MIST. And as we said at the beginning of this, go check out the Alchemist Discord. I posted a link in the CC chatter thread. So join there, see where you can get involved, and maybe some of the projects that we have around here. I mean, I say maybe. I really feel like, there's a lot of potential for Copper and Bankless projects to work together in the future. We share a lot of the the same mission, vision, values, decentralized, fairness, openness, and allowing communities to grow in a natural way. So yeah, definitely lots to come. I've just had another question pop in. I haven't read through this. I'm gonna read it as we go. This is from Chumperdink, and he says, "Hello all, thank you for the great work. I have a question. I'm new and trying to wrap my mind around DAOs and liquidity pools. With that said, are there any plans for administrators to have a program or pool that would automatically invest or guide new members' investments? I've been following Alchemist admins and trust their guidance. I would feel comfortable following admins' advice since I am not educated enough to do things on my own confidently." Before you jump in, I think this may have something. This may tie into the curated lists that we talked about earlier, but I'll let you jump on that one really quickly.
Yeah, so that's really it. I think although we are kind of developing a lot of expertise internally within the Copper team, we want to avoid promoting specific projects on the platform unless it also ties into the unlock of a new feature, and maybe that's the first project that launches through it, or something along those lines. And that is because we want to stay neutral, and we want to truly be permissionless and avoid the you know, because there's so many projects that are launching, we can't possibly do proper due diligence on all of them. And that is not also the best use of our resources. We'll keep building the tooling and the opportunity for others to jump in and do that. And I think that in the long term, that will actually result in more protection for our users than ourselves advising, buying into a particular launch over another one.
So yeah, there's definitely guidance. All you gotta do is ask the right people, Chumperdink. Yeah, so also welcome. I'm not sure I've seen you around here, but definitely welcome. Yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up for now. There's definitely more to come. I think what we'll probably end up doing, there seems to be some interest in creating some curation lists for Copper within BanklessDAO. I think that's one of the things we'll definitely explore and see if we can flesh that out a bit. And that's only going to build our bond between the two communities. So yeah, we will be in touch. If anybody in the crowd, obviously Blackfire, you're interested, anyone else interested in getting involved in something like that, go ahead and send me a DM, and then maybe we can spin up a thread somewhere here within our own Discord and get that moving. There was some discussion of a POAP before this, and I failed to follow up on that, but I have recorded attendance. So we will be distributing a POAP retroactively, everyone, for those of you who've joined in. I think that pretty much brings us to a natural ending. Any closing words from you, Pizza King or Ree?
I think I've spoken enough. I'll let Pizza King say something.
Sure. I just want to, this is a great way for me to ring in the year with jumping on Bankless. I'm wearing my Bankless shirt now, so really appreciative of everyone and the opportunity to be here. And then just shameless plug. Obviously, I'd love to talk to anyone and everyone who's interested in launching on Copper, learning more about it. So please find me on Discord. I'm everywhere. And would love to chat. And again, just thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you NFT Thinker for hosting a great conversation with us.
Yeah, thank you guys for hosting. Bankless has been the start of my journey in a lot of crypto things. So kind of going from being like an on the sidelines investor in the spring to like building within this, and now being on, within your community or like within the Bankless community is really like full circle for me. So really honored and thank you guys for inviting us and appreciate your time.
Yeah, we certainly appreciate your time. And yeah, as you said, things move fast around here, in the crypto space. You've gone from just over 6 months ago to now, and how things have changed. So yeah, on behalf of the BanklessDAO community and all of us here listening, I'd like to say thank you both for showing up, and thank you for any of your members out there in the community who've come to this AMA today to help support this. And thank you very much. We will see you around the DAOverse.
See you guys around. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
All right. See you later. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.